Hey guys, I'm Melhorn. If you watch any of my videos, you've seen me use demon dragons, and in this video, I'm going to show you 2 ways that I rig these things up. Now, what is a demon dragon? Well, it's basically a floating lure. It is a fishing lure with no hooks on it that floats. Now, inside of the demon dragon are some little metal balls that rattle around inside the plastic shell. It creates noise and it creates vibration. And for a lot of anglers, they believe this attracts fish and will entice them to bite. Now, arguments can be made in both directions as to the effectiveness of them, but I've caught fish on them and I use them, and there's a good possibility in certain situations you will catch more fish using these rattles. So how are these hookless lures catching fish? Well, actually, they're used on a santee rig, which is a float style rig used to catch mainly catfish, but also striped bass, and it suspends a cut bait or live bait up off of the bottom. One end of the rig has a sinker on it and it drags the bottom, while this here acts as a float and floats the bait, which comes off the back, up off of the bottom. Now, traditionally for years, people did this with a styrofoam float, but recently the demon dragon, some other similar type rattles, have been used instead. And what I'm going to do is show you how I rig them up. There are 2 easy ways to do it. One's a little more complicated, one's a little bit faster. You can decide for yourself which one is best for you. First thing I do is start out with some leader material. I use Andy monofilament in 50 or 60 pounds. You can go slightly less, you can go slightly more, but this is all you need to catch any catfish or any striped bass anywhere in America. I generally start out with about 18 inches. There is no right or wrong answer on how much you use here. You can use more, you can use less. 18 to 24 seems to be the middle of the road route there that most people go with. The easiest way and the fastest way to do this is to simply run your line through this top little eye up here. This is where you would normally tie onto if you were throwing this as a plug, and then you're going to come through the back. Basically, I put this about 1/3 of the way up from where my hook is going to be back here at this end. I tie on my hook. I use a circle hook on these rigs, and I'm just using a uni knot to tie these things on. I'm just going to do 3 turns just so we get it on there. Boom, that's tied in place. Going to go to the other end, and I put on a snap swivel. You can use a sinker slide. I suggest that you don't, because the sinker slide will allow this rig to float up off of the bottom if you use it while you're anchored up. When you're drifting or dragging baits, it's not that big of a deal, but if you decide to anchor up using one of these rigs, it will float it off the bottom. The system I use is basically a drift sinker. This is one of the many flexible drift sinkers that are out there. The snap on the snap swivel attaches to the weight, and then I come to the opposite end and I tie on my leader line. Tying it to the opposite end of where the snap's at will allow the rattle and the bait to turn in the water as it moves through the water. What you'll do here is, where the snap attaches to the swivel, you'll tie onto the swivel end with your main line. Now you're asking yourself, hey Dieter, this thing's moving around on that line. What are you gonna do here? Here's how I do this. This is what makes it quick. I take some electrical tape, just regular electrical tape that you get at the hardware store. Give me about an 8-inch piece off of it. And I wrap this around here 2 times to hold this in place the length I want it from the hook. Pow, you're set. It's in place, it's locked in place. This rig is ready to fish. Again, this is a quick, easy way to tie this rig together. The other way has 2 more knots in it. It's one of the reasons I go with this system. You've only got the 2 knots that you normally have on a rig. I'll show you real quick what the other way is. Basically, you would do what you did on the first rig, which is tying a hook onto a piece of leader, but this time it's only going to be about 6 inches long. You'll take that you'll tie it onto the back here. I just use an improved clinch knot. Very simple, quick and effective knot to tie. Use whatever knot you're comfortable with. And then you've got another piece of leader material about 12 inches long that is going up this snap swivel. Pretty much everything on the rig is exactly the same except for how it attaches to the float. Then you're going to go on here and tie onto the other end. Again, it's not that big of a deal. You're just adding 2 more knots to the system, which is not the end of the world, but it is twice as many knots as in the rig with the electrical tape, and twice as many chances for a knot to fail. Either way, both rigs work. They're quick and easy to put together, and they all work with any size Demon Dragon that you use.